Hey, Forrest here. I hope you all are doing beautiful today. Today I want to talk to you about the spiritual revolution that is now upon us. Now, if we look at the world around us today, what we see is widespread suffering. We see grinding poverty, homelessness, devastating wars around the world. We see inhumane treatment of refugees, of immigrant populations. We see authoritarian governments. We see the desecration of the earth through man-made climate change. We see the threat of a nuclear holocaust. These are all, no doubt, disturbing tendencies in our world today. However, what if all this widespread suffering, all of this darkness in the world is giving way, is even needed to spur a counter movement of light, a true spiritual revolution? And that is exactly, my friends, what is happening right now. Beneath the surface of all that suffering and of all that darkness, there is a wave of light and oneness that is building beneath the surface. And we see it in the evolution of consciousness that is making way in this world. We see it in the number of people, the growing number of people who are moving away, particularly young people, moving away from traditional church structures and seeking a direct experience with the divine. It's not altogether different than what we saw in the 60s and 70s with true grassroots spiritual movements rising up. We see it today, even in social media, despite all of its negative aspects. More people than ever before are tuning on to spirituality. And we see it on social media with the growth of spiritual communities that began during the pandemic and has only increased since then. We're seeing this spiritual revolution in widespread mainstream acceptance of practices like meditation and yoga. Both meditation and yoga were terms that were seen as very fringe as recently as 30, 40, 50 years ago. We're seeing this spiritual revolution in people's craving for authentic connection in their communities. Look at the increased popularity of farmers markets. Look at the increased popularity in holistic treatments, in going to your local chiropractor, in going to your local acupuncturist, in going to your local healer. We're seeing this spiritual revolution growing. But here's the catch. The spiritual revolution will not be televised. Those in the academic world will not even have a hint of what's happening. Those in the mainstream media will not have a hint of what's happening. Those in government will not have a hint of what is happening. The leaders of industry will not have a hint of what is happening. The churches may not even have a hint of what is happening. Why? Because this is a true grassroots movement that is bubbling up from the surface, and eventually it'll remake the entire world once we reach a multitude sufficient to sort of sweep away the old and bring in the new. And most profoundly, this spiritual revolution will not be predicated on violence. It'll not be predicated on opposition. It'll not be predicated on anything even remotely resembling duality. It'll simply be the spreading of light from one soul to another. It'll be the sharing of plant medicine with one another. It'll be the sharing of spiritual wisdom. It'll be the sharing of healing modalities. It'll be kindness and compassion on an individual level that transforms at the collective level. It'll be the peace that starts with each one of us as individuals and spreads to our families. And then from our families to spread into our communities. And then from our communities, that light will spread into our towns, into our states, into our nations, and eventually it'll engulf the entire world. We are not fated to head to some Armageddon where we destroy ourselves. In fact, I would argue that biblical scripture has been widely misinterpreted. The Armageddon that was talked about was really a reference to the age of darkness. But what was not mentioned is what comes after the age of darkness, the age of light. And that's where we're headed. We're headed towards an age of light. The spiritual revolution, again, will not be televised. But mark my words, it is something that we will all inevitably live through and we will all be a part of. And the key now is for each one of us to find our inner peace, to find and feel our connection to God, to the one with many names, to the Christ light, to the Buddha light, to the Most High. And then spread that light, baby, to everyone we meet. The spiritual revolution is now upon us.